And people always say such nice things to me and about me when I get introduced at these events. I'd like to do them more often. I just want to compliment iMedia for focusing this conference on partnerships. I've been to many, many digital conferences, and I think you all have, and they always tend to be around disciplines. And as much as the intersection between social, mobile, video, and data is critical to our business, I think that the way we do it and the way we interact with each other is every bit as important as what we do. So I think you should really look forward to the partnerships, because that's what's going to make this business great. When I was at the party last night listening to hip-hop and all of the things that drove me away early, it struck me that many of you in this room were born after 1982, which is when I joined my first agency. And when I joined my agency, or our agency at the time, agencies were absolutely obsessed with doing everything themselves. It was like imprinted on their DNA. If you asked them if they could do it, they said, we have all the resources here in-house. So if a client had asked us if we could do an affiliate program with a CRM component and a promotion which leads through to a direct marketing fulfillment, we would have looked them in the eye and said, no problem. In fact, it's a specialization of ours. The account director would have rushed back to the agency and say, how the hell are we going to fulfill this affiliation program? But by hook or by crook, the agencies would have got their resources together, meshed something together, and in some cases, we even succeeded, sort of. But today, that question is probably more like, how are we going to do a multi-level attribution analysis using the data from our data management platform and pulling in data connectors globally? By the way, that's a real brief. And we would still go to a client and say, that's no problem. But today, it's no problem because of the great partnerships that we've got in the data arena. And I think we've evolved, and we've had to evolve because we've had to become so much more sophisticated because of that kind of Lumascape that Jonathan showed you. So here's a heads up. There's a short version for you if you have to catch up on your emails over the next half an hour, I understand. Here's the short version. Partnerships in our data-driven technology world are absolutely critical. It's a no-brainer. I would argue that you can't survive without them. That's what this presentation's about. The next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to try and convince you of how complex our business is and how critical those partnerships are. We're going to talk a little bit about the kind of strategy that we've got that leads to some partnerships. I'm going to share with you a very unusual but a very successful partnership that we did with 2 clients. And then talk a little bit about what I think, in our experience, has made partnerships successful. So I know you know this, but rather than show you another Lumascape or tell you how many months of video are uploaded every hour on YouTube, I wanted to give you I wanted to illustrate the growth in this business by talking about areas of connection. Devices and programs created that connect our ecosystem together. Just consider the following. 100 billion apps downloaded, 1 billion smartphones sold, 1 billion Facebook users, 6 billion tweets per month, 5 billion searches a day, 400 million Hulu streams a month, 200 million blogs being updated all the time, 100 million iPads sold. And the VC business is really intensely interested in this in our area. So there are more partners coming into this all the time. We see 4 or 5 or 6 new partners coming into the ad tech world, which of course is fantastic because it creates new partnerships, but it also makes our area more complex. So, and that creates data. Now, in Xaxis, which is our audience buying company, which is just one part of our business, we see the following. 60 billion impressions served a month by GroupM agencies, and that's just advertising served. Those aren't the interactions between the advertising. That isn't if somebody clicks or views a video, which creates a whole bunch more data. 200,000 requests seen in RTB a second, and that leads to 728 million profiles or cookies that are updated in any week. which extrapolates to 10.1 billion segments attached to profiles in 30 days. And there are 15, which is the average number of data segments attached to that. And then you have 12 DSPs of any particular size serving the business. The number of data sellers are over 100. And we think that there are around about 10,000 clients around the globe that we deal with as an industry that use that data. So if you put that into a cocktail shaker, what you really get is 6 petabytes of data, or 6 quadrillion bytes, depending on the way you want to see it, that which is, I think that we probably serve about 4 or 5% of the impressions in the business. So we're a big agency, but we're insignificant in the big scheme of things. 6 petabytes of data, and it grows by 45 terabytes a month. So think for a minute, and remember my title is Chief Operations Officer. I've got to try and keep this together. I've got to try to make sense of it. We've got to try and reduce costs where we can. We've tried to make it as manageable for our clients as we can. But think for a minute about the implications for our business, especially agencies. And then let's ask the question, what's the potential for confusion, complication, inefficiency, discrepancy, increased cost, error? I think you'll agree it's absolutely staggering. And I don't want you, after Jonathan's excellent introduction, which was all about opportunity, I don't want to bring this down. I just want to say we have to be able to manage this because the opportunities are fantastic. In that data lies the gold. It's the insights that are driving the efficiencies in our business. But we have to manage them. So that begs the question. Do you really want to do this on your own? Yeah, I thought not. So it's a great thing. It's a huge opportunity, but let's not try and do it on our own. And before I tell you how we partner, let me tell you a little bit about the business strategy that drives us towards partnerships. A lot of you might be familiar with it. It's at the heart of our business strategy, which is build, buy, partner. And we consider each when we have a look at the ecosystem. I'll go through these quite quickly because I think this is the sort of stuff that you can get in a textbook, but it does put my presentation into perspective. So where it makes strategic sense for the organization, we will build both products and companies. A good example of building a product would be the data management platform that we've built when we acquired 24/7 as a partner. Because data is the lifeblood of our business, and we really felt that it needed to be a core ownership product of what we did. And it didn't exist for us to buy, so we had to build it. And we really want to make sure that our client data is in a discrete and safe environment, and that's really why we built our own tech stack. And that's what we built. In terms of building a company, if it exists, one might buy it or one might partner, but at the time when we felt that we had a sense that we needed to own our own mobile property, and we couldn't buy it because there wasn't one out there that either we could afford or was available. We will start it, incubate it, and build it. And hence we've got our mobile company, Jewel, which is a good example of something that we built organically and continue to grow. So why build? Well, here's a list, and I know this presentation is going to be made available to you, and I'm not going to go through these in any great detail. We're going to focus more on partnerships. But you know, why would you build? If you're a pioneer in the field, if you're first to market, then something may not be available, so that you have to build it. And you know, if it's patentable, you can protect it, and you can own it, and you can make money from it. And if you need the intellectual property, if it's core to your business, you might build it as well. And building also makes sense if you have the time or you have the resources to build it, because that allows you to build it either in full or in increments. And so if you have those resources, building in-house makes a good sense for your strategy. It also offers you most control. You're designing it, you're specifying it so that you can build it to meet your very own needs. And also it's potentially the most profitable, because really if you partner or if you buy, the out-of-pocket costs would be higher. But conversely, this approach also contains amongst the most risk, because if you don't manage the scope very carefully, and I've seen this happen in agencies because I've made the mistake before, if you don't manage the scope, particularly when you're building technology, it can spiral out of control from a time and a cost perspective. So there are those risks there. When would we buy? Well, WPP, and I think many of the holding groups that my agency colleagues and peers in this room belong to, have built their agencies by smart acquisition. And here's why it makes sense to buy. Firstly, again, if it's core to your business, when you need the company and the product to remain competitive, you might do that. If there's a short time to market, buying can be one of the faster ways, certainly faster than building. And again, if you need the intellectual property, you might buy it. And if you don't have the expertise in-house, well, then you either have to buy or, as we'll see in a minute, partner. And again, very often, if market leadership is important to your particular business category, buying is a way through. But conversely, costs can be high. And I think statistics show that a lot of these acquisitions fail because of poor integration. And so that also takes your eye off the ball of your core business. So there are risks attached to it. And WPP, our parent company, has bought many fine companies on its road to becoming the largest communications group in the world. But we're here to talk about partnerships. And I think by now you accept the fact that because of the complexity and the huge opportunity in our business, partnership is now an absolute necessity. And we talked about complexity driving us towards partnerships, but there are many other reasons that make partnerships important too. So one of the main reasons we tend to partner is speed to market. If a client wants an RTB solution and they tend to want it quite quickly, building or acquiring one, if we felt that we needed to, ain't going to cut it. So partnering makes a lot of sense there. We talked about helping manage complexity, but in a sense, you'd never want to. Many of the solutions that help us manage complexity aren't solutions that we would want to build or want to own. We don't want to own our own ad server. We don't want to own our own campaign management system. You've never won a new business pitch by having a great campaign management system. But it does help you manage the complexity of the business. It also allows you to conserve your resources. You may well have resources to help you build it, but it can fill the gaps and help you conserve those resources. Reducing risk is a large part of this too. In buying and building, there are risks. There are expense risks, there are specification risks, there are scope risks. By partnering, you have a huge canvas of people that you can approach and work with and reduce those risks too. It allows you to assume market leadership quite quickly, although you may not own the assets. If market leadership is important, partnering is great as well. And a lot of our customers want to buy best of breed. And if you buy best of breed and you don't own those resources yourself, then the only way to get them would be by partnering. And the last, which is test the waters before deeper commitment, is one that I've used a great deal and we would use very, very successfully. Is if you're intending to buy or intending a more serious relationship, isn't it great to be able to partner with someone for 6 months to be able to see whether you're compatible? It's like living together before you get married. And it's a terrific way of seeing whether you can work together before you go into something more serious. And partnership's got a few downsides, but it really is around something that needs to be managed carefully. You don't specify the product yourself. You don't own the product. So it's something you need to be a little bit more circumspect about. And then the last thing is sometimes from a short-term profit perspective, partnerships don't offer the same as building and buying. We've built some great partnerships in GroupM, and of course, as an agency, there are no shortage of people who want to partner with you. In fact, I can't remember any time that we went to a potential partner and said, "Would you like to partner?" And they said, "No, they'd be crazy not to because we're a big buyer of resources." But that kind of scale, how many people you want to partner with, is part of the problem. And really, how many do you need, and how do you select them? When I started this job as a COO, we had 1,600 active accounts. The smallest spent just a couple of $1,000s, or perhaps hadn't even spent anything for the last year. The largest spent hundreds of millions. We knew we didn't need them all, but we weren't sure how to reduce that list and make it more manageable. did we really need 35 automotive publications? No, we didn't. Why? Because it adds to complexity, the cost of doing business, it slows you down, slows operations down, and so we felt that we needed to whittle that down. So what we did was we first grouped them into categories, into video, social, mobile, news portals, et cetera, et cetera. And then we were able to see how many we were dealing with in each category. That's how we saw we had 35 automotive publishers. We really didn't need that. And then we were able to say, well, which ones here are essential? Which ones do we keep? Which ones are really offering nothing extra? And the easy ones to weed out were the ones that we hadn't used in a while. If we hadn't used them in a while, well, then they're not going to be essential, right? And then we set about evaluating each of those individual companies in each category, whether they were a technology or whether they were a vendor. I'll tell you a bit more about the process on the next slide. But we now do business with far fewer partners. We've cut that list down by at least a third. And what's really interesting about this is, can you see the average spend of the 1,600 partners? Well, now we're spending a heap more. So it's much more lucrative on our side because we're getting better business terms, but each of those partners is getting a lot more business from us. And we'll talk about this a little later on, that's a real win-win for both sides. So the nature of our business still dictates that we do about 80% of our spend with 20 of the largest publisher holding groups. But with the next group down, with the other large partners, we're building about, we think we'll end up with between 100 and 150 partners. And we've chosen and we'll choose those partners on a preferred basis. So we'll have preferred arrangement with them, and they'll have a preferred arrangement with us. And we'll decide who we do business with on those terms on either side. Okay. And selecting them isn't an easy task, but it's quite rewarding. And I think, as Jonathan said in his intro, this is the reason why agencies exist. This is why clients need us. This is why we have to go out there and be able to assess the resources that are available to them and make these recommendations. Don't let this slide frighten you. I'm just going to use it as an example. But this is an example of a selection matrix we use. And it is a detailed process. That's why it's a detailed slide, I guess. In this case, for video ad serving, for a video ad serving partnership that we were assessing at the beginning of the year. And we list our criteria for what makes good video ad serving down the left-hand side of the column, and then our partners or the potential partners across the right. And we get into this by brainstorming with all of the users, with all of the media planners who use video ad serving, with all of our traffic and people who use it. And we just see what criteria makes a good video ad server. Then we meet with each potential partner and assess them against these criteria. This can take days and days of meetings. And yeah, it's a painstaking process, but I think it's also thorough and it's very rewarding, and it allows us to identify the real best candidates. So it's done in an organized way. We can go to clients and say, this is how we work. And by the way, this kind of process gives our clients quite a lot of assurance, rather than, yeah, we've seen them all, and we've decided on video ad server X. So this is kind of really working for us, and we continue on this journey in every single one of the categories that we do. And by the way, this is something that GroupM helps the agencies with, so we can do this centrally. This is not about finding the best kind of creative partner for a campaign. This is all around operations, and this helps us reduce some of that complexity and clutter in the agency's life. So, as I said, it's working. We continue on this journey, and we found that it's good for our business. So that's the process part done with. I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about an example of an unusual partnership next. So, as you can hear and witness by my presentation, the data, technology, operations, publishing partners are all vital to all of us. But partnerships can be multi-level arrangements as well. And I'd like to share with you one of our most successful partnerships that we've been engaged in. It was between two clients, a portal who acted as both a publisher and an asset builder, and a TV network. And we considered the consumers partners in this as well, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The case isn't new, but because of its success, it was a campaign that ran for 3 full years. And as it's now complete, I can share some of the details with you so it's no longer confidential. It combined consumer-generated content with professional screenwriters to create an online comedy series which targeted moms. But what was different about it, it was written by moms and it was produced by moms. And we just cleaned it up. The campaign was called In the Motherhood. It was between two clients. And we'd never dealt with two clients before. So this was a learning experience for us, and it was always a little difficult to balance the expectations across the two clients. But was ended up in an extremely rewarding partnership. And because the clients both needed moms, Sprint was targeting moms, and of course Unilever was targeting moms as well. But because they didn't compete with us, with each other, they were able to partner in this, and they were able to share the considerable costs. And the insight in this for this campaign was when we researched it, moms wanted to share their experiences. They want other moms to hear about it, but they wanted peer-to-peer communication. They didn't like so much advertising talking at them, as you know advertising often does. So we really felt about, well, how could we build this? And this was really in the early days of social marketing when we thought about it for the first time. We really wanted to get moms to talk to each other. Microsoft acted as both a partner, a distribution partner using all of their video assets, but they also were an asset builder. So whilst Mindshare came up with the creative concept, Microsoft did all of the creative asset building around this. We didn't use a creative agency at that time. And what was very, very unusual was getting moms to write to other moms and getting moms to vote on the best scripts. And so the way it worked was moms would share their experiences, but we bought some software that allowed those experiences to be converted into a film script. Those film scripts were displayed on the website that was built, and then the moms voted on the best film scripts, and those were produced professionally, and I'll show you an example in a minute. And the other partner, and this might sound a little trite or corny, but the other partnership were with the consumers themselves. We really felt that they were the partners in this process. They created the content, and they shared the content. They voted on the content. They then blogged about it, and they then sent the content viral. And you can see from some of the comments on the screen, they absolutely loved it. We got a terrific response from them. And then an unexpected partnership cropped up. The head of entertainment at ABC called and said, "This is so terrific. Could they partner with the two clients and ourselves to create a national network television show, a primetime show, out of our advertising idea?" And of course we said yes. And so this became not just an advertising and a promotion partnership, but it went up a level into an IP level, business level partnership as well, which extended into at least one season of network television. I think we're going to show you some of it now.
Mommy, I did it! I went poop in the potty.
You did poo-poo in that potty?
I am so sorry. That top really goes with your hair.
Is Heather in there?
I want a puppy!
Oh, I'm out of here. She'll get tired soon.
You know what? I better go too.
Hi, we're camping too!
Who are you talking to? Okay, so I moved a family from New Jersey. At least someone got to see my AC/DC tattoo.
Mommy, look! Oh my God! Mommy's panties! Mommy's panties!
I need mommy's panties. Okay, so give me mommy's panties. Okay,
No, girls! Hi, Mom. I hate you.
You said I want to have sex with Principal Baker.
No! I never said that. I am not a sexual person. I mean, I like to have sex. I said that I wanted to play hacky sack. Hacky sacks. Haven't you ever heard of hacky sacks?
Give her a shot. She's lonely.
You're You're talking about your kids again.
No, I'm complaining about the kids. That is very different.
You're not as pretty as my mom.
That's not nice. That's not nice. No. And looks aren't everything.
Well,
no, looks aren't. Looks. Would you like some bread? I've got.
No, I don't. No.
You want the vodka now?
And so the purpose of me talking to you about this, showing to you about, was really to show you that it was a kind of a very unusual multi-level partnership. I'm not going to talk ROI numbers, but you can see some of the extraordinary results that exceeded many of our expectations. The clients loved it and, in fact, went into a second and a third season and as you see, got made into a network TV show. So a great success on many levels. But what was great about it is it actually taught us so much about partnering, where we really had to partner between clients, between ourselves, between a medium, between a network TV show. Huge challenges in that, but taught us so much about how rewarding a partnership can be. So to finish off, we talked about why partnerships are the lifeblood of our business, why we choose to partner, why we choose to build or buy, and how we select partnerships. But finally, here are some of the things that we've learned. This is certainly not a complete list, but it's a sort of a personal list, if you like, about what make great partnerships work. And I think if you ignore these, maybe they won't. The first thing is check the ego at the door. This is really important for agencies to learn. I think we agencies often go in, and our clients together go into negotiations as the top dog because we're the ones who are representing the money. The partnerships can only endure if there's a win for it on both sides. And if agencies go in and demand the upper hand, they simply won't get the most out of it. In fact, you should regularly check that all sides are happy with the progress and feel that they're getting something out of the relationship. The second thing is discuss what would make this partnership successful before you start. Say, what does success look like once we've completed this? And then agree on what the role is of each partner and what we're accountable for. So many undiscussed things can fall through the cracks. And so it's really important. And I'm not talking about the Gantt charts and all of those sort of things, which I'm sure are very, very important. But these are just, this is the kind of, if you like, the moral contract between all of the sides, is what will make this work and what do we have to do. And who's accountable and how are we accountable. And this was critical as well, is you can imagine dealing with a very, very expensive production like that, which cost a lot of money, and two very big, important clients running this together with a network television, together with an agency, together with a media owner. There were many, many components. We couldn't treat this like a committee. In fact, one of the things that we learned is we got 3 months into the project and it just stalled because there was such a hierarchical decision-making process that it couldn't go forward. So we had to regroup and say, let's trust a small team, a SWAT team, to do this, and then they can report in. But it's very, very important. Committees don't make partnerships work. And then a rising tide will float all boats, but it can sink boats as well. And you're in this thing together. No blame storming, just making the thing work was really important. You can get the credits together, but we have to take the knocks together as well. And very importantly too, let's not forget that there's a customer in this. Let's not forget that the customer is the one who's got to be delighted, informed, educated, and we need to check back, do regular health checks to see whether or not this is still meeting the customer's needs. It can be a very slick partnership, but at the end of the day, if it's not a great campaign based on a great idea, it ain't going to work. And lastly, and by the way, this is a full presentation on its own, I liked Forbes's four rules for a partnership. You should be able to check off against these, and a really great partnership should fulfill as many of these as you possibly can. So the partnership that can make money or make money and save money, partnerships that grow a user base, partnerships that build a better product, are partnerships that will offer growth. So thanks for listening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, John. I think we have time for a couple questions. Do we have one? Any questions from the audience?
I can kick it off with the first one. So, John, great presentation, and just to get the ball rolling on Q&A, when you say no blame storming, that's a miraculous feat, because when things do go wrong, there's always finger pointing. And so how do you manage that?
I know this is going to sound oversimplified, but by saying who was accountable for what and who was responsible for what in the beginning was a really good thing. But the other thing is that we built a small team, and that small team that drove the partnership realized that we would, if we did a great job, we would all succeed together. And so it was absolutely amazing on the client side, as well as the agency side, as well as the publisher side. If something went wrong, they took the blame together. They took it for the team. It was a fantastic thing. But I think partly because it was a small team, and partly because we'd set the expectations up front.
Hi, John. Jason Burnham with Burnham Marketing. What we've kind of seen recently is that most agencies, and frankly a lot of media providers these days, are starting to just add on new services in an attempt to be more competitive. What we're finding is, people are really becoming a jack of all trades and masters of none. So I'm curious to know how you position yourselves in establishing a differentiation between your core capabilities and the incremental value that gets created from partnerships.
Yeah. I think that that's a mistake. I think that that was the 1982 model that I shared with you, and it's not going to succeed because you're going to get found out. I think we could busk our way through it with when affiliation marketing and direct marketing was still a reality, and that was a level of complexity we had to do. It's just too complicated now, and that's the reason why I shared the buy-build strategy with you. The buy-build partner strategy with you is you really need to see what you need to own. For instance, the DMP was something that we felt was a strategic must for us, so we built it ourselves, and we think that our tech stack is now a differentiator. But in building the tech stack, we used partners all the way through. So it's not a simple answer, and I think that those agencies that try and own everything will stumble and they'll get found out ultimately. I think there are ways to partner, and we have to partner in order to make it successful.
Hi, Greg Smith, Video Hub. John, great presentation. I didn't realize how complicated your role was. I'm curious, how do, you mentioned one example of partnerships and how they bubbled up. It seems like you've got a very fragmented group of companies as well. And how do these partnerships really develop? Is it more kind of top-down, or is it more bottom-up in terms of, the organizations that you're working with?
I mean, it's a great question. I think that strategy is top-down, but where we as GroupM, so remember, GroupM's not always a welcome interloper in this. I think that the agencies see themselves as kind of individuals with their own secret sauce, and we might see levels of inefficiency. For instance, data aggregation and pulling data connectors or something that if each of our 4 agencies try to do on their own, it would cost them a huge amount of money. So we would, from a top-down perspective, say, this looks like a problem, but then do you agree? We would go to the agents and say, is this a problem? Sometimes we'd get a consultant to go in and do interviews with that agency to identify problem areas, and then we would go into partnerships to help solve them. Sometimes the agency would come to us and say, data is just crazy. I'm deluged with data. All our people are spending time on data. Can you help us solve this? So sometimes it's a sort of a meeting in the middle, but very often strategically, it's a top-down thing where Erwin or Rob or I will say, this is a problem we need to solve. How can we do it?
Wonderful. Thank you so
Great,
much,
thank
John.
you.